Namo Amida Bu, The True Teaching on Amida Buddha and His Pure Land by Reverend Joshua Adrian Salia. Chapter 1, The True Teaching on Samsara. Part 4, Two Questions on Buddha Nature and Samsara. Question 1, Where did the Buddha nature within us originally come from? Question 2, When did the process of self-delusion or suffering start the first time and why? First of all, no matter how much a Buddha would explain to us the nature of the universe, Buddha nature, nirvana, etc., as long as we are unenlightened beings with limited mental, spiritual capacities, we cannot truly understand it. So the Buddha only offered us some hints or clues, like those I presented above. But he could not possibly offer to us everything we want to know, and not because he did not know, but because we do not have the right organ or spiritual maturity for knowing more. Just imagine, how can you explain to a newborn baby a physical theory? It is not because you do not know it, but because the baby cannot really understand you at the level he is now. Our brain, or what we call mind, cannot really process the wisdom of a Buddha, who naturally knows everything. Thus, only when we ourselves attain Buddhahood can we understand everything about Buddha nature and samsara. And all our questions will be answered, or better said, we'll have no questions to ask, because then we will naturally know everything. And where there is no ignorance, there are no questions. That is why the Buddha insisted that here and now we should be concentrated on following the path and reach nirvana, as a person wounded by a poisoned arrow will first pull the arrow out instead of dealing with theories like, to which bird did the feathers of the arrow belong, or what type of wood was used when making that arrow, and so on. The unenlightened human mind is limited and dualistic, so it has the tendency to think in terms of beginning and end. But this beginning and end are just mind categories, nothing more. Sometimes they are useful tools, especially in dealing with everyday life. But when we wish to use them to understand nirvana or Buddha nature, they are not so useful anymore, and rather they can become obstacles. Thus, because we cannot overcome duality, it is impossible for us to conceive that which is beyond beginning and end. The truth is that the mind wishes very much to be a beginning, because this gives her a sense of security, stability, and some kind of false understanding, which is in fact an intellectual concept, not true knowing. Because our mind functions in terms of beginning and end, it might appear safer to accept the idea of a creator God. Indeed, the human mind feels safer if it wraps up the world in concepts which seem familiar to it. So for many people, the matter is not if there is or there is not a creator God, but rather there must be a creator God. And so they will actually do everything to cling to the idea of a creator God. Coming back to the Buddha nature or nirvana, sometimes the Buddha used positive and negative descriptions of it, so as to make us yearn for freedom, or wish to become Buddhas ourselves, or to give us a starting point. But he also pointed out that nirvana is beyond concepts. This is to show that we cannot apply any mind category to it. So without entering into details which are impossible to comprehend with our limited minds, nirvana or Buddha nature is the state of true freedom, while samsara is the state of bondage or slavery. You are free or you are not free, or in other words, you're either a Buddha or an unenlightened being. No God created the state of samsaric slavery and its myriad of realms, as I explained in the last subchapter, just as no God created the state of true freedom. Being uncreated, the state of nirvana or Buddha nature has no beginning and no end, so we cannot say that it came from here or there. Only about the karmic existences can we say that they are created over and over again by unenlightened beings who are self-illusioned. But as to when this process of self-delusion or suffering started in the first place and why, this is a question asked in the dream by a sleeping, that is, unenlightened person using dreaming categories with a mind which does not know freedom and awakening, and which will be answered after awakening or Buddhahood. Or better still, the questions will naturally disappear after awakening. Once we attain true freedom or awakening from the samsaric dream, Buddha means the awakened one, there is no more samsara for us. This is similar with the every morning situation when we awake from a dream and we realize that the dream was not real, while the state of awakening or Buddha nature was always there. This means that the dream was created by us and our emotions, while the state of awakening, Buddhahood, or a nirvana, is uncreated. That which is always there, uncreated and unchanged, is this reality when awake, or the Buddha nature. Namo Amida Bu.